So where does this leave the legal action now?
Well, they're contemplating still going to court, Jeremy. That's despite the government this morning gazetting the ban on the selling of the hot foods. And they say that Sakeliga says that they believe the decision to ban the sale of hot foods in the supermarkets is still irrational. And they believe that they could have this regulation overturned if they head to court. Of course, at this stage, they're only receiving legal advice. And they were going to go to court because the regulation wasn't gazetted in the first place. That's after the Trade and Industry Minister Ibrahim Patel announced that the selling of hot prepared foods wouldn't be allowed. Of course, a lot of uproar about this, particularly among middle-class South Africans, Jeremy, not being able to access stuff like roasted chicken, pies and hot foods, but also a significant portion of the working-class population obviously access those hot foods at Pick n Pay and Spar, especially the essential services employees. They would obviously be affected by this, but Sakeliga and a few opposition parties believe that they can still get this overturned in a court of law.
So what's the government's principal reason for doing this then, given that it was a late addition to the regulations or a new amendment?
The government hasn't issued a formal explanation for why it's included the banning of hot foods in the regulations, but it's been interpreted as an extension of the ban on the selling of foods in restaurants. And of course, much of the informal sector which prepares hot meals on the side of the road have not been operating during this time and have been negatively affected. And so the extension through this regulation now moves into the formal sector. And in the run-up to this, we did understand that companies such as Spar, as well as Woolworths, received legal advice that they weren't obliged to follow the ban because it hadn't been put in the Gazette and therefore could continue selling it. But as an act of good faith, they stopped selling it to adhere to the government's instructions, and that's also to get some sort of uniformity across the board from the informal sector to the stores such as Woolworths, Spar and Pick n Pay.
Just remind me again, it would be stores like that that have these hot deli counters, I guess is one way of describing it. But you also referred to people who sell hot meals on the side of the road. Both of those, as of now, are forbidden.
Yeah, those are banned at the moment. The hot food aisle, you know, you'd get a pie and you'd see some pap and vlees and some gravy, chakalaka maybe, and you'd be able to buy that. That's no longer being allowed. But an interesting loophole that's emerged here, Jeremy, now that the government has specified that it's banning the sale of hot, warm, prepared meals, groups such as Sakeliga are telling their members and the general population that, well, you should prepare your meals, then freeze them. And once they're cold, you should be allowed to sell the exact same food, even if it is as a takeaway.
All right, we'll see what happens with that particular loophole. In the newsroom, Govan Whittles, thanks for the update.